Welcome to another episode of My Story, My Glory. I'm your host, Nancy George, and today we are with
Dr. Jerry Okelloo.
Welcome to the show, Dr. Jerry. Who is Dr. Jerry?
Dr. Jerry is a family man with 2 children. I'm the director of Medical Health Services. This is a company or a health facility that do curative services here in Nairobi. I'm also engaged in leadership. I'm the head of Youth for Leadership and Development, CBO, here in Nairobi, and also one CBO in Kabondoka Sipul, which is my constituency.
Dr. Jerry, before you became a doctor, where did your journey start? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school?
Well, it's long and interesting. My mom died when I was in class 3. And from there, we were left in Kisumu, a place called Manyata, that is slums in Kisumu. One day when I was in the streets, I was just alone in the streets, and I met one of my aunties who took me to Uganda. I did my class 4 in Uganda. Basically, my primary level, what happened is every class I went to was in a different school. Why? Because I could go to one school, live with someone, then they realize that probably they can't stay with me. Yeah. Then I'm transferred to another school. So I ended up at home in class 6. Then class 7, I came to Nairobi. That was the first school that I did 2 years. Yeah. So I did my class 7 and 8 in Tangari Primary. Then I went back again at home. I remember Form 4, I didn't do my NDA exam, that is Form 4, KCSE. I didn't do from school because I was expelled. Well, I was not that good, but I thank God that I managed to pass my exams. But you see, now I had not paid my school fees. That is like a whole year school fees. So I decided to come to Nairobi. I wanted to play football so that I'm recruited in the army. I tried football. I played even for Ulinzi at some point. It never materialized because I didn't have my papers, and you know the way things go. So I decided to join my friends, some of my friends who I knew, in touting. So I did touting, that is number 23, Kangemi, Westlands Town, for almost a year.
Popularly known as Makanga.
Makanga, yeah. Well, I had goals and I knew what I wanted. My main aim was to, first of all, get my papers from school, which I did. And then the moment that happened, I was called to do medicine. And I joined University of Nairobi. I finished in 2008. That is when I did my internship here in Kenyatta.
Wow. So after an internship, where did you get your first job?
Well, I went to Voi, that is a public hospital. Then I came back to Nairobi, where I joined Kenya Airways. So I did that for another 1 year. In Kenya Airways, one thing that I noticed is that I could not do my best in medicine because I would only see staff, and I could not manage serious clients. So I felt like I need more experience.
You're limited to just regular checkups and all that.
Regular checkups. So I came back to Kenyatta again, did some volunteering. I joined Maria Kani Cottage Hospital, Dr. Were, who is a very nice guy. Unfortunately, that place is closed now. Most of the time I did night shift because I wanted more experience. That took me around a year again. And now I decided to start my own private practice, and that is Medical Health Services.
That's so nice. So I will ask you as a doctor before I ask you as a politician this question. Do you think Kenyans or African politician or the government of Kenya is really doing as much as is needed to the public? Because every other politician that is sick will go outside the country. And I believe as a member of parliament or as a politician, your job is to make the betterment of the country so that you don't go out. Check their kids, they're going out. Before you get a treatment of cancer in this country is a headache. Not to talk of other sicknesses. What is really going on? There is no medicine in the government hospital. What is really the problem? Because you've been there before and you've worked with the big as Kenyatta. What is the challenge of Kenyatta?
Well, the main problem is corruption. Corruption in the medical sector is done in many ways. And I can give you an example of, in our constituency, we have a hospital that is a level 4 hospital. That is Mikai Hospital. And you realize that it only runs during the day. And this is a level 4 hospital. is supposed to be having all the radiology services that are necessary, but none is working. Mothers are not giving birth in that hospital. Why? Because at night there's nobody. And trust me, this is a level 4 hospital. So one thing that I know is that they've really managed to ensure that the building and the infrastructure is there, but there's no services, people to provide the services, meaning that it's like we don't know what you're doing, and I can get the services even if it's under a tree. It's better than having a house without services. This is done through a lot of corruption, because you realize that these radiology equipments, every time you go to these hospitals, you're told they're broken, they cannot work. And sometimes they're even new, because if you go to Mikai, I know there's a very new X-ray which is not working. So there must be somebody who's not working or doing the right thing. Every hospital or every organization must have a maintenance department. So if an X-ray, an example of an X-ray, if it's not working, then meaning that we need to have either procurement, a new X-ray should be bought, or we do maintenance. We can repair it or something like that.
And that's bring me, because you brought Mikai up, I wanted to bring it much later. My question about your constituency.
Yeah.
There is equipment that was brought there barely 2 years, according to my research. They're not working.
Well, it's not necessarily the doctors or the nurses or the personnel who are working in the hospital, but there could be somebody else who's luring them to do that. So this is something that happens deliberately, and we know they can do it every now and then when a new machine is bought. And believe me, I've done also my research, and I've thought on how we can change this. Apart from that, aside from that, the doctors who, let's talk of the health workers who are in this public hospital. I believe that there is no enough monitoring that is done to them. Either there's a lot of laxity, and the county is the one that is running health, as much as the national government is also involved a bit. So the county government needs to ensure that the workers are monitored, and they need to have performance indicators that probably they will use to check on these workers. If at all we have a good leader, then all these things can be solved. And at the end of the day, it's my grandmother who's there. It's my auntie who's there. We need them to get proper services. If they don't, then we'll have a cycle that will never end.
As much as we want to change this, you're saying it's under county government. The county government is making sure that the doctors are not even employed in the hospital. Clinical officers. Can you explain to me? Because only in Kenya we recognize clinical officers. Somewhere else you go in different countries, Western countries, they'll be like, what is that? Is that even a course? Is it even a proper for a clinical officer to diagnose you? Or they're supposed just to check you like a nurse? Can you enlighten the public about that?
Well, clinical officers and clinical medicine, I believe that the curriculum is enough to ensure that they can diagnose some of the conditions of the diseases that we have around, and they can as well treat. It is important that these clinical officers are enrolled, and apart from that, they're challenged to do continuous assessment so that at least they do the right thing as they perform their duties. Even nurses sometimes do these duties, not necessarily clinical officers. And sometimes even the community health workers, as you see right now, according to the agenda that UDA had, one of them was to ensure that community health nurses or workers could go around the villages and probably do 1 or 2 diagnoses before they send the patients to the hospital, to ensure that the hospitals are not populated or work capacity is regulated. Well, what I know is when you have clinical officers, it's cheaper to maintain them, because if you look at their salaries compared to the medical officers, it's more or less, and it can help the government or probably the county government to work in a proper way if at all money is the issue.
Yeah, because you'll only find one or two doctors in most of these county government hospital, which that one doctor comes when he or she feels like to go to work because they know that clinical officers are there to do their job. And that's why you find a lot of people with misdiagnosed, a lot of people with not being treated properly. So you find somebody suffering from something else and being treated for something else.
Just the same way they can entrust the life of a woman in labor with a nurse, clinical officers also are capable of doing all that. I don't think clinical officers are less trained when it comes to what they need to do. The only challenge is in leadership. We expect that the leadership needs to do its job. If you provide equipments that are working and monitored, and you also provide the salaries, that is the finance that is required. And again, if we are serious with our jobs in the leadership, then I believe that even down here, where we have the clinical officers, the nurses, even the cleaners, they will do their job. So it is important that we look at the leadership, because I can only tell my house help what I want to be done. But if I don't give them proper instruction and I don't monitor what they're doing, then I don't have to blame them when they do something bad. So I believe that leadership is what needs to be checked before even we go down to the clinical officers and the nurses and probably the other services that are provided in a medical setup.
And when you talk about leadership being checked, because it says that 69% of Kenyans, they are always forced in public facilities to go to certain recommended pharmacies. If you go to a different place, you will not be attended to. Your report won't be checked. And if it's checked, you'll be told, come tomorrow, or go, and this one is not clear, or the report is not showing. The x-ray is not clear enough. From the Kenyatta hospital to small facilities and to level 4 in the district and all that, in each and every county of Kenya. What is the problem? Why do you have to force somebody to go to your facility, yet you work for a government? And is it even right for doctors and clinical officers to own their own facilities next to a public hospital or outside a government public hospital?
Well, I don't believe there's any law that is gagging anyone from having their facility or their business outside a government facility. Though if at all you're working for the government, then you're not supposed to own your own private practice. That is the law. What is happening is merely just corruption. And apart from that, we have cartels that regulate all these things and manage all these things the way you're saying. That is why we need a leader. We should have facilities that are functioning. A level 4 hospital, for example, or a level 5 hospital, or even a level 6 hospital should be having all these equipments, should be having all these services provided within the hospital. And if at all they're being sent outside, it's because these patients are told that these machines are not working, or they should come another day, or probably the capacity has been a lot too much so that the machines are not able to give proper services.
Are you saying a member of parliament, CEOs, the president himself, because this one come down even to the president, we get a lot of equipments donated from abroad, but you will always find at least yearly things that are donated to public government hospital in private facilities that belong to doctors which work in government hospital. Number 1, cartel, Kenyatta Hospital. Number 2, Coast General. What is the issue?
What I know is if you buy a new machine, it lasts for a year. These machines are usually given guarantees. If it spoils or if it gets broken within a year, then the manufacturer or the supplier needs to ensure that that machine is repaired or is functional. If not, they need to replace. So it means that there's no follow-up. So at the end of the day, you can find a government equipment in a private hospital, not because they stole it themselves, but it's because they were sold to them. So it's something that again boils down to leadership. If there is no proper leadership, because let me ask you, you and me know very well what to do. And we know what is right and what is wrong. If at all you do something that is wrong, you'll know that you've done something wrong. But if you wanted to do that wrong thing, then deliberately you've done it so that you gain from it. It means that you have selfish interest.
So you're saying leadership is the problem. And that's now bring me to you.
Yeah.
You want to become a member of parliament. What's your reason?
I cannot always keep complaining that the schools are not being furnished well with books. Then we don't have equipment, and I do nothing about it. Since I cannot go there directly and do it myself without being a member of parliament, then let me go for the seat.
What makes you think you're going to be a difference prior to your counterpart or prior to the people who have been there?
Just the same way they gave promises, the same way I can give my promises. But now what matters is, am I going to hold onto my promises?
So you think you're the right person to do the enough
I
for the
believe
Kasi
so.
Kabul? Oh, who is funding your political ambitions?
Why should I be funded?
I don't know, because
Can you
we
find-
normally find a lot of people, and the cartels that are funding them are the people who have been to politics. They know they can, because they have done a lot of corruption, they cannot go back there. So they look for a clean person to come, vie, get the seat, and then be doing the cycle continue of doing the shady jobs for them.
This is a youth-driven initiative. We have groups that believe that we can do it ourselves, and projects that are initiated by the community. So we decided.
How was the group formed? Who is the leader of the group?
I am the leader of the group. We used to talk and we used to just do things randomly, but now we decided to make things very official, whereby we started the CBOs. We do civic education. Those are projects that are not needed by the community, but leaders will do them just to benefit from them. We also thought that in our community, we need to have the works done. Example, NGCDF projects needs to be done by the people in the community, the locals. So the reason why we are not going for funding from anyone, just as you said it, is because we want to do these jobs ourselves. By that, we will be developing each other. We'll be giving jobs to the people on the ground. We'll also make sure that we have projects that are relevant to the community. We cannot have a borehole in a place where there's a river. We are not intending to get funding from outside, from any person who will want kickbacks or will want to do the projects for us, tenders or something like that. So we are funding ourselves, to answer your question.
You talk about CDF. Out of 100 kids that get this CDF money for education, only 10 will get it clean.
What do you mean by clean?
Clean, what I mean by clean, only 10 will go there and ask for the bursary and get it straight away. The other ones, you have to bribe somebody that is seated in that office. You have to bribe the member of parliament. There are some constituencies that I know for them to be guaranteed that you're going to vote for them. I believe CDF is out there to help that needy child. Why is it like a favor they are doing to you, or you have to pay? You have to pay 5,000 to get 13,000. Why is it so?
Well, again, I'll go back to leadership, and I say once you get a wrong leader, then we don't expect anything to be well done. CDF should not be for a particular group of people, and apart from that, it should not be used for campaign purposes or to bribe anything. It's meant for development, and development is in categories. One of them is now the bursaries, and this is something that we need to sit as a community and discuss. And yet we still don't have our manifesto out, but we are working on it. And I'm not only the one working on it with my small team, but as a community. It's a manifesto that will involve, and it will have a point on how CDF should be dispersed. We know that CDF bursaries should be given to everyone in an equal manner, and it should not be biased in any way. So again, I go back to leadership. The moment we have bad leadership, we don't expect anything good to come out from it.
you give sanitary towels to girls in your constituency, right? My question goes out to, is sanitary towel in Kenya, because we are not stable, like that much stable, is it supposed to be given to a public school for each and every child in Kenya, or they need to suffer? Because I've seen girls, especially in, I will talk about Nyanza because where it happened to me first time, it was in Nyanza, and a member of parliament had an event, but the kids that were supposed to perform in that event, 13 of them were not in the event, reason being they were having their periods and they don't have sanitary towels. And that was the shameful situation I've ever seen 11 years ago. My question is this. I think the president or the government of Kenya should offer sanitary towels free. And why you are not a sitting member of parliament right now? Why are you giving sanitary towels and the member of parliament not giving the sitting current member of parliament in your constituency?
Well, to start with your first question, is why me and why do I think that I can do it differently? I've been an orphan, as I said earlier, and even in high school, different school, and most of the time I will drop other schools because of school fees.
School fees, financial challenges, yeah.
Why? Because probably I didn't know anyone, and I wasn't even sure whether it was being given because there was no enough civic education at that time. So I can't really blame anyone for that. But I wouldn't want another person or another child to experience the same thing that I experienced. I believe that I would have done much better. I'm not saying that I did worse, but I would have done much better if I went to a straight school where I attended all the classes, all the lessons. So this is something that we need to look at very well. We need to make sure that everybody gets an equal chance. And the CDF, as much as it's for development, the bursaries should be ensured that they give priorities to those ones who deserve them. There's a way, I'm sure, that one day we'll come up with as a community that will ensure that this is done and it's done right. It's a shame in our country that we still have girls who drop out of school, or sometimes they cannot get sanitary towels. It's a shame. We rely on Western aid so much.
Yeah.
My belief is we can take care of ourselves. The moment we over rely on Western aid, or not necessarily Western, it could be another country, then we are enslaved in a way. I believe that we can do better. We can have our own taxes and manage them well, and this will help very many in cases like, for example, the sanitary towel issue. It's important that we have serious leadership that is not enslaved.
But I believe every man is born with a woman. Every man has a daughter, has a sister, has a wife. Yeah. How are you going to convince other fellow members of parliament to talk about it, because they don't want to talk about menstruation in parliament? Kenya.
Sometimes
it's like a crime when you bring it up.
Sometimes we talk about things that we're not comfortable, not because we just want to talk about it, but we have to talk about it. If it's a problem, it's a problem. We have to have a solution for that. So if I go there, and when I go there, I believe that should be one of the agenda, especially I have a medical background. Yeah. And I'll make sure that this is taken care of in a way that it's discussed to the fullest, and we ensure that mothers don't have to worry about their girls, and even not necessarily just giving sanitary towels, but even education on the same. We need to have proper reproductive health education, so that at least as much as they get this sanitary towel, they know how to use it. I can give you sanitary towels, let's say, for example, 4, and you have a heavy floor, for example. Somebody might think, let me use one for this entire period time, and I'll use another one next month because probably I don't know whether I'll have another. So we need to educate them on how to use. And
that's bring us to hygiene, and that's bring us to having diseases, the fungals and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So it's important that we train them as well, not necessarily just giving. And that is why in our organization, if we take these sanitary towels, we also have a nurse or even a clinical officer or just a normal community health worker who also help us to educate these children. We have started it. We are still going to do it. I believe by 2026, we should have visited, if God grant us his will, then we can do probably up to 7 to 10 schools.
So you're working with the people. You're looking from the vote from the people.
Yes.
But you are not funded. You run your own private facility. That is what is funding it or what? Because people are curious.
Well, like the last time, we don't really announce it. We do it not necessarily silently, but we do what we can when we can. The intention is not necessarily to give us fame or to sell us in our campaign or anything, but is to give back to the community. So part of this funding is from my own pocket, part of it. But I have friends as well, friends whom if I tell to give me probably like 2 bags of sanitary towels, they are willing to give. So the donations are there from many corners, whereby if we have it, others will give us even a vehicle to carry the sanitary towels. Others will send money, which we buy at the locals. And sometimes I don't even have to be there, because sometimes we do leadership empowerment. So there are youth leaders who are on the ground who do it. Apart from just sanitary towels, we also do poultry. That is, we rear chicken. And this what I do here in Nairobi is to look for market for these eggs, for their eggs, and even the chicken, the ones that are selling. So there are leaders on the ground, youth leaders on the ground, that we partner, that we organize ourselves with, and they give the right information. We work with the community health workers when it reaches this time, when we go to give the sanitary towels. These community health workers, what they do is they train these girls.
Every person that wants to get quick money and get quick rich, very fast, they go into politics. They're just using politics to enrich yourself. Because you people normally start very humble, start with the community. When you know you have like 12 months to 10 months for the next election is when you start all the construction. And then you tell the community, if you send me back again, that position, I'll finish what I started. Is that your intention?
Well, it's difficult to convince you that is not my intention.
You're convincing people in your constituency.
That is true.
And yes. Why you want to be a politician?
Because one day I'll be there. I'll be living at home when I'm old. I will be complaining that nothing was done and nothing is being done. If we are complaining that others are doing it wrong, then we have to do it ourselves. That is where I'm coming. Yes.
Do you think African leaders are doing well globally in marketing Africa and Kenya as a Kenyan?
Why would we want to market Africa? Let's say, for example, let's take Kenya. One reason why we should market Kenya is to ensure that we get revenue from outside. I believe that probably we are doing it the wrong way sometimes. We are marketing Kenya sometimes to get funded. We are not independent until we stop relying on external funds. That is my belief. And the moment you depend on anyone to survive or to live, then you are under the mercies of that person. We need to market Kenya to create revenue in terms of trade. African leaders might do it probably well on paper, but when it comes to actions, we are failing.
It's believed being a politician in Kenya, you have to be at least 53.5% corrupt to be a member of parliament in Kenya. We don't want to market globally because global international cannot take the corruption that we are using. Kenya cannot even distribute toothpick because we import from China.
Why are we importing?
We have companies for toothbrushes. Politicians want to import because I own a company as a politician that can import it from 50 cents from China. The cost of bringing it here is 3 shillings. The cost of it will be 20 shillings. Why then buy the 40 shillings?
You know, we have greedy politicians, and as you say, most of us or most of the politicians are greedy, and they will do anything to make money, just as you said it. We know of sugar. We are importing sugar, yet we have factories that could give us sugar and provide even work opportunities to the citizens. We can name them. We know all of them. We are not new in Kenya. And that is when you fail as a person or as a leader. I believe in true leadership, servant leadership that will empower people to work for us and make sure that our companies, our factories are independent on how they work, where we get our raw materials, because in Kenya we have enough. So it's important that we look at all that. It is a step that we are starting. If we cannot change it, then who will? You know, we cannot leave everything for our children to come and do, because the energy you put now on leadership is what our children will pick up. And when they pick what bad leadership, that is what will continue. So we have to change this culture. It is important to know that we have all the resources. And one time back there in history, we were under another government, that is colonization. We have to remove this colonization mentality in us, because at the end of the day, we have to do what is right for all Kenyans and to ensure that Kenya has progressed in terms of, one, development, and development can only progress when there is right leadership.
As we know, Kenya is the most expensive country in East Africa. Why is it so? Why is it the cost of gas or diesel is expensive in Kenya? Why is it the cost of living is expensive in Kenya? Why is it that coke comes at a very cheap rate, but the cost of selling it? And you are told, if you cannot do this to this beer, you cannot sell it in Kenya. The price that is coming out with it is 78. The last price that goes on the shelf is the government of Kenya, or the people in the government have to determine. Why is that so?
Well, we have to do a lot of regulation on that. And I know, again, there's usually a lot of self-interest. And that is the main reason why you'll realize that other goods are supposed to be cheap, not necessarily cheap, but affordable to the citizens, but they're not. And again, it's where you go. For example, if you've talked about beer, let me say something about that. If at all you want to buy beer for 400 shillings, a beer that you can buy it for 200 shillings, again, it's your own will, because you know where you can get the beer for 200 shillings. The class as well. Sometimes others will increase it because of rent and all that. Yeah, I cannot speak about that, but at least there is a margin on the amount that you're supposed to sell it with.
Because the sellers are getting between 5.
Yes.
What? There's this money in between here. There's this 100 plus in between here. Goes to some cartels.
Which again is self-interest. So leadership is key when you want to control all this. And our main aim in leadership, or a good leader or a true leader, should focus on how to make the lives of the people they're leading easier and better and comfortable as well. If you fail to do that, then to me, that kind of leadership or that leadership has failed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jerry. That was all for today of My Story, My Glory. I'm your host, Nancy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for watching another episode of My Story, My Glory. This show today was dressed by Mode Tachu. They're located at 53 Studio Park along Ring Road. Stay tuned for the next episode.